I'm delighted to say Mark Lawrenson is with us. Mark, good morning to you. You were at the Etihad yesterday. What was your performance assessment of the two teams and the quality of what we were seeing?
Outstanding. There's no argument they're the best two teams in the world in terms of club football. If like me, you remember watching Madrid, Real Madrid, that is, of course, and Barcelona in El Clasico for all those years, and thinking, wow, how eye-watering was that, watching those two teams go at each other. They're very much there now, these two teams. So I thought City were a little bit unfortunate. They could have almost put it to bed in the first half. They had lots of chances, and they cut Liverpool open more than I've seen any other team do that this season. And I think the reason for that was the fact that Liverpool have just cruised through all the games, and rightly so, because they're that much better than all the other teams in the league apart from City. And City yesterday, the way they started, Liverpool were hanging on in the end. But of course, like any good side, came in half-time, reorganised a little bit, and the best thing that happened to them was they scored with virtually the first attack of the second half. So it was just an outstanding game, in all honesty.
The psychology is always weird in situations like this, where Man City are playing brilliantly and then they score and then they stop playing for a little while and allow Liverpool back into the game. And Liverpool are so good that they can take advantage of that. What is it about City that, like, maybe we expect too much, that actually when they're so clearly dominant for a portion of the game, we think that they should be able to do that for longer? But I guess that's the whole point when you are playing against another world-class team, is that they're also going to have an opportunity to take control.
Well, we expect too much from both, don't we? Because they've got such outstanding players. And, if you start at 100% and then suddenly drop down to 95%, it means you're not as good. And the timing of Liverpool's second goal, obviously, was in the terms of the game, was massive for them. I think if they'd gone another 10 or 15 minutes without scoring, then Klopp would have had to gamble a little bit. So the fact that he scored so early, it was like, okay, we've got a point now. Let's just take it easy a little bit. Not as in stop running or anything, or working or anything like that, but just let's not go hell for leather and concede another one. So, it's good. And I was listening to the radio on the way home, and one or two people ringing in saying, this, that and the other about the game. But honestly, I don't know if you've ever been to a game where you've sat almost on the touchline, and you suddenly realise how quick these games are. They're absolutely amazing. And then, so the ball comes to you, and you've not even got half a second to think. It's a millisecond because you're under pressure and you've got to control it and pass it and move and all those kind of things. And honestly, the standard of yesterday's match was just, I thought, absolutely fantastic.
The spectacle is helped as well by the fact that both managers, and in particular Jurgen Klopp, are just beautifully stubborn and set in the philosophy that they want to play. Like so many teams, if they were challenging Manchester City, might have sat back yesterday, played a deep defensive line, and I guess that's why Manchester City had so much joy in that first half, is that Klopp stuck to his ways, but sticking to those ways ensured that they did get that equaliser in the second half. Yeah,
they were hanging on first half. I was right by him, and I was kind of watching him as much as the game as well. And I think it was almost a case he's thinking, at the very least, we don't go down to 2-0, at the very, very least, because then I think you are chasing the game, and the game changes completely. But he kept his philosophy. And in fairness to Liverpool, they hung on in those moments. And if you look at all their recent games, it's been relatively easy, and I say relatively easy in terms of most winning those games. And yesterday was just like, it was like a whirlwind for the first 45 minutes playing against them. And they looked ordinary defensively, which obviously they very rarely do. They had lots of chances. I mean, Sterling's chance so early on as well. I mean, that could have, if that goes 1-0 then, straight away early, then you are climbing the mountain. But look, Liverpool stuck at it, but it was just a game to kind of, once you kind of took it all in, and, I was thinking on the drive home, it's just like, what a fabulous advert for the Premier League. And as I said before, El Clasico, it was up there with El Clasicos for me.
The highline that Liverpool have been playing all season is one of the reasons that they've been so successful at winning the ball back quickly and smashing teams. And so we know that it's very important. We've definitely spoken on the show before about when you get to this level where the opposition have a De Bruyne who's playing through balls, that it's on a knife edge, and the knife edge failed a little bit, you would say, perhaps for the second goal of the first goal, and then just bailed them out by the width of like a deltoid that kept it at 2-2 yesterday. So it makes you feel alive as a Liverpool fan, I guess.
Yeah, listen, look, that's the way they play, and you know they gamble a little bit with the highline, excuse me, and against somebody with a vision and range of passing of De Bruyne, that's always going to be a problem because he sees things other people don't see. But that's the way that it is. I mean, if you look at the two fullbacks for Liverpool in the first half, Trent and Robertson, you know, they had a bit of a torrid time at times, but City have got world-class players, and that's what happens. I think just the fact that what will please Klopp is that you stay in the game. By hook or by crook, you stay in the game. And if the goalkeeper has to make outstanding saves, he makes outstanding saves, and that's what you're paying for. So, yeah, I mean, you know, one of the best things for me the whole game and was when Edinson, you thought he'd miscontrolled it, and Jota's closing in on him. You're thinking, and he just it was like he had a cigar on, didn't it? He went, yeah, that's the problem. Just stop it going over the line and I'll pass it to Cancelo, and what's your great problem? But, I mean, that was... I just started laughing. I just thought, wow, I mean, how good is this?
Do you think Edinson gets a little bit nervous in those moments, or do you think he genuinely is a cigar out guy?
100%. His heart and his backside will be like, wow. But he made it look really, really cool. But and once he did it, he must have thought, got away with one a little bit. But look, that's the way that both teams play. They both pass it out from the back, and occasionally you're going to make mistakes. And in fairness to City in the first half, they caught Liverpool very much in a way that Liverpool would have caught lots of other teams in terms of nicking the ball off them. But as I say, in the end, the 2-2, and City will feel they've Guardiola said they've missed the beat a little bit, haven't they? They've let Liverpool stay in the race, but we shall see.
Can I ask you about Thiago's performance yesterday, Mark? Because obviously that ball that he plays out to the wide for the first Liverpool goal is absolutely outstanding, and he's been playing those sort of passes over the last few weeks in particular. He's been in excellent form. On the flip side, he could have been sent off if there was a different referee. Like, is that a concern for you at all about his game?
No, well, not really, because normally he's got that much time and space in which to play. No, I mean, Fabinho as well. The game passed Thiago by a little bit, but that was just the sheer pace of the whole thing. And it passed, I mean, even Virgil van Dijk in the first half looked a little bit all over the place, which is almost unheard of. And so, no, I think it's just the fact that, you know, both teams, the quality of both teams is just absolutely outstanding. And there's no doubt that, you know, they've dragged loads of teams in the Premier League to be much, much better. And they never really got any kind of praise for that. And I'm sure, you know, if you're looking at the Spanish football week in, week out and the quality, and then you're also watching the Premier League, it's complete role reversal, where we would just kind of salivate at the way that the top teams in La Liga were. Now it's completely the opposite, and all their supporters and everybody looking at our teams and thinking, crikey, these are head and shoulders above anybody at the moment.
Is there any possibility the cup game has any impact on the rest of the league season? That if one team was to win, so it's totally irrelevant and separate?
Yeah, totally irrelevant. It's a cup game. It's, you know, someone's got to win it. No, it doesn't. You know, obviously you'd be disappointed because from Liverpool's point of view, because you want to try and win all four. And if you win 2, you're delighted. If you win 3, you're ecstatic. And if you win 4, well, you're just record breakers. But no, it's a cup match, and what you can do, you can just completely park it if you get beat. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the thing goes to penalties, a bit like the Carabao Cup, of course, and then anybody can win it anyway. But no, it doesn't seriously impact. I mean, been in the position a few times, and if you win, it's great. But if you lose, you almost say to yourself, well, it's a cup match. And I think, you know, if Liverpool would rather win the league than the Champions League, and vice versa for City. Whether that happens, obviously, we don't know yet.
Pep Guardiola was in really good form in his post-match interview on TV yesterday. He's not always in good form. Like he was talking about the fact that, you know, himself and Klopp should have dinner sometime. He was excited to watch the Masters last night. says to me that Pep was absolutely delighted with the result yesterday. Sure, they could have won the game, but I think he kind of sees now that they've got a bit of a hold on this title race.
Yeah, listen, everyone talks about Pep and Klopp. The families have dined together on a couple of occasions, so it's not. There is rivalry, obviously, but underneath it, both of them, they absolutely totally respect their opposition. So people have made a great thing about it with Pep and Klopp, but underneath all that, as I say, there's massive respect. I mean, what a day for sport yesterday. I don't do Formula One. I don't really get it, but obviously the football was sensational, and Rory was like unbelievable as well. And I mean, I can't remember what time I got to Eddie's, obviously after when Sheffield had won yesterday, but it was just think, wow, well, that was like the top class sport you'll ever see.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad weekend, in fairness. There was plenty of other things. And one last question for you. From a Liverpool fan, you might be able to guess. Mark Johnson, do you think Liverpool deserve more credit for coming back twice at City? We went to win, not draw. We don't have billions to buy the league like City and Chelsea. Liverpool are a team with heart, he says. Do they deserve more credit for keeping going? Or is it actually a 50-50 after a result like that?
I think they got lots of credit, because they came back. And I mean, the money thing will always raise its ugly head, won't it? And, the next thing is, well, we're not sponsored by a country or backed by a country, all that kind of stuff. But look, it is what it is. City are very, very fortunate in terms of what their owners can do for them. Liverpool on a completely different trajectory, but what Liverpool have done is better than any other football team, I think, is their recruitment has been absolutely unbelievable, that old recruitment again. So, yeah, and if you look at Liverpool and look at the number of players they bought between 30 and 40 million and turned them into almost upwards of £100 million players, it's amazing. And I know City fans will go, hold on, you signed Alisson and you signed Van Dijk. Absolutely, totally did. But, what unbelievable signings they were. But generally, Liverpool's look at it is they don't buy a complete player. They buy a very, very good player for smaller amounts in terms of fees, but they make that very, very good player into a world-class player, and they've done that with loads and loads of players.
Let's move on and talk about Manchester United. We felt that there was a chance that Everton were going to get sucked back down by virtue of the performance that they had, where the game was there for them to win against Burnley and they couldn't do it. And then, of all the teams you want to ride into town, it's the rudderless Manchester United who come to Goodison and barely tried a leg. It was like, I guess we didn't think it could get much worse for Manchester United, but we were wrong. Yeah,
I mean, that will be their worst performance of the season, bar none. It just tells you the problems, and we've spoken about this before. And if you have an interim manager, regardless of whoever it is, he's an interim manager, and players in the dressing rooms who don't particularly like him because probably he doesn't pick them on a regular basis, they're not bothered. They're like, well, he's gone in May, so let's wait for the next fella. And I think therein lies the problem is that it's not so much the ability of these players, it's just the dressing room. It's almost like I don't know if there are factions in there, but I would be very, very surprised if there isn't, because it doesn't make any sense. Because if you take some of these guys individually, they're the real top players, as we know. But in terms of collectively, they play like they've just met in the park, these fellas, and it's just I just don't get it. And you kind of like, where's the leadership coming from? It doesn't seem to think it's not coming from the manager, because he's obviously a really, really nice guy, but he's a really nice guy who knows that come May he's either shifted upstairs or paid off or whatever, and it's somebody else's problem. And it's whoever's coming into this football club, it's going to be a massive, massive job. And good luck to them, but they're seriously going to have to change the way they think. Not so much change the way they play, but change the way they think. And if you just look yesterday, look at forget about the ability of City and Liverpool. Look how hard they work. Look how hard they win. They run and fight to get the ball back. Just everything about it, and everything is done literally at 100 miles an hour. And if you don't do it, you don't get anywhere near those teams, and you get taken off. And there's such a long way off Manchester United. I'd like them to do that because I think it's great for the Premier League. But if it's whoever's the new guy, whoever he is who's coming in, he's got one hell of a job, by the way.
Like Ralph Rangnick, it's interesting you say there that he could be gone in the summer, he could go upstairs in the summer. We'll see what actually happens. But the point you just made there about these players not playing like a team at the moment, like surely that damages Rangnick's reputation significantly, despite the fact that he is just papering over the cracks. He is just a stopgap in that dugout. The fact that he hasn't got this team playing as a team is surely a black mark against him, and regardless of what capacity he exists within the club after this.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's obviously a nice guy. You sense he's a nice guy, and you listen to him that he's a nice guy. But he's also, because he knows he's not staying, he might go upstairs, so what does that mean? But he's not and can't really rock the boat because he knows he's not staying. And it's almost like, oh, you've done me a favour, you've given me a job for 6 months, and whether I stay in whatever guise, we don't know. But I think that's one of the problems, that he obviously doesn't go into the dressing room and fire into them. And I know, they say, oh, you can't shout at players anymore, and you can't do this, and you can't. Well, you can if you know, as a manager, temporary or full-time, whatever you want to call it, you can if you know that they're actually, some of them aren't pulling the weight, and majority of them aren't pulling the weight. So, and they're not playing for each other. I think they're looking after themselves as well, which of course is not a good position to be in. And it's what do they call it? Root and branch, I think, as far as they're concerned with the football club. So look, whoever comes in, good luck, but he's going to have to start firing a few bullets as soon as he gets in there. Otherwise, they're just going to be the same Manchester United. And I think the league needs a really, really good Manchester United team as well. Why not have another one and chuck Arsenal and Tottenham as well into the mix and make it a little bit more competitive? Because at the moment, the top two are a million miles away from anybody.
We've spoken before as well, just in the last week or two, about the transformative impact that Jurgen Klopp had on Liverpool. It was a perfect timing where the club decided they were going to put money in. There was the rump of a good team there, but he came in, put shape on them, and all of the signings were done with his style of play in mind. Is something similar happening at Spurs, where they have a genuinely world-class manager? The stadium is finished. Mm-hmm. Crowds can come back. They have some very, very excellent players, some world-class players in that team. Yeah. And they've signed 2 players already who are straight in the team and making an impact, which suggests that things, for whatever reason, might be a complete fluke, have a line now where they know what they're doing. Yeah,
no, definitely. Definitely. And while he said one or two strange things, Conte, over the course of being there, he's getting it right. And that's all you actually want. And, the other thing about the couple of players that he signs, he knows them really, really well, and they know him, and that makes a massive difference. Once you kind of ally that with your Sons and your Kanes and those kind of people, all of a sudden they look completely different. I wouldn't be convinced defensively about Tottenham, but they are definitely getting there, and Arsenal have just done what Arsenal do, which is have a really, really good run, and we're going to say, oh, they're going to walk fourth, they're going to make it easily, and all those kind of things. And then they lose games. Palace away didn't turn up. Brighton at home at the weekend. I wouldn't say they didn't turn up, but they didn't really start with any fire. And in the end, obviously, they end up getting done. But that's a little bit what Arsenal do, I think, since, coming towards the end of the reign of Wenger, that's the way that they were, and they've not really changed. They're great when they play well, they're really easy on the eye, but on occasions, when they really need to fight and make it difficult for the opposition, they don't really seem to have got it, and Tottenham can sometimes be like that also.
There's often quite a lot of talk, Mark, about how to manage a modern football team, and there seems to be this kind of prevailing sense that footballers need to be mollycoddled and looked after, and when you're speaking publicly about them, you can't throw them under the bus. Whereas what you're seeing right now, like, I mean, Antonio Conte was brutal in his public pronouncements about this Tottenham team right after coming in. He was unbelievably honest about the situation that he found at the club, the effort of the players, the hierarchy, and look at the turn of results. And even in a smaller case of that, Thomas Tuchel eviscerated his players last week after the Real Madrid performance, and then they go out and smash Southampton at the weekend. Like, there's a lot to be said for tough love, I think, at the moment with regards to man management. There's two examples there that are working.
But also, you know, what I think the key is to get the real top players on your side. That's the key. And if you listen to both managers, they speak about their best players all the time. So the best players can carry all the rest of them on. And I think that's the difference. And listen, you know, I think obviously both Tuchel and Conte are very, very good man managers, but they're also completely in charge of the whole of the football side. And I think he's been very clever, Conte. He said one or two things and you kind of think, why on earth would you say that? But then actually when you look at it and results start to come, you kind of think, okay, we get it. But I mean, you know, the way he's been with Harry Kane has been very, very clever, as in, you know, just every time he talks about him, he can't talk enough about him. This fella's brilliant. He's such a fantastic person, and you know, such a fantastic player, and all those kind of things. And he leads the team. And the thing is, you know, the ones who go with him will stay with him, and the ones who are like iffy in terms of performances, etc., Conte will get rid of them eventually.
A good chance they're in the Champions League next year. Everybody will want to come and play for him. He's such a dynamic character. Then, you know, there's very good reasons for them to be very hopeful about it. A question on YouTube, last one.
There is. Go on. I was just going to say there isn't, but you have to factor Daniel Levy into that because in terms of buying players, good luck. Because
is Antonio Conte the one person in the world who might actually be able to just look him in the eye and say, this is it, buddy, everything is here, literally everything is here for you to be successful. I could turn you into the new Liverpool if you want it, and that's the challenge.
The only problem is, the best description of Daniel Levy I've ever heard is he wouldn't give you a crumb off his plate, so he's going to have to deal with it. But I think the thing with Conte is, I think he only signed for 18 months, so I think the thing with Conte is that Daniel Levy knows that if he doesn't get what he wants within reason, he will walk away. So he's got to then balance that in terms of, you know, players in and players out and all those kind of things.
The last question was from somebody on YouTube saying, Ronaldo is one of the worst big club signings ever. Do you agree? And
no. No, I don't, because, you know what you're going to get with Ronaldo. And, you know, I don't know how many goals has he scored. He's scored lots of goals, hasn't he? For Manchester United. I just think a little bit with Ronaldo is I still think he's better coming from the left, you know, of a front three, because that's how he made his name, and that's how he scored all those unbelievable goals. But he plays through the middle, and he doesn't press, he doesn't charge people down or anything like that. And you might say that, you know, in terms of effort, but if you get him the ball in the penalty area and he's got half a chance, more often than not he's going to score. But man, that's another thing why Manchester United are just a mess, and that's also, I think, with Ranić, nice fella that he is, he doesn't want to upset anybody. And, you know, I mean, De Gea obviously was quite happy to upset people after Saturday at Everton. And I know Ranić says, well, yeah, you know, I kind of agree with him. He didn't kind of take that on and actually go, oh, by the way, not just that, but X, Y, Z. But he knows he's going in May, so why is he going to upset anybody? He simply isn't.
He wasn't naming names for sure. Mark, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
It's Mark Lawrenson giving us some thoughts on a spectacular weekend of football and golf, it turns out.